Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Gray Area. I am Mr. Bennett, followed by my partner, as always,
This is Sparta!
the host of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Panayotis. We are certainly simulcasting also on the Sparta HQ network. So we're going to ask as you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button on the BMU network. Also go over to Sparta HQ network and hit the like button there as well. Helps both of our algorithms. And as you can see, scrolling below, certainly we appreciate, certainly if you're not a subscriber, certainly subscribe to our networks. We have, we do different channels, but certainly, BMU, obviously, you can be a member here, but also visit Sparta HQ and help us grow our base over there too. Lots of interesting shows that go on, lots of different shows, lots of different topics. So we encourage you to be there as well. So good to be with you guys tonight. And then lastly, you can see us scrolling at the bottom of the screen, our Cash App. So again, we ask that you consider supporting the BMU network or the Sparta, Sparta HQ network. We're almost near monetization. So, we're certainly looking to get, monetized there, but, consider supporting the BMU network and certainly anything you give to us personally. You'll see our Cash App scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So good to be here with you guys tonight as we explore this topic. I'm going to let Pete sort of tee this up. So, you want to talk about love tonight. So what's love got to do with it is the question I'm asking tonight. So where you going with this, how you want to steer this conversation tonight. It's a big, this might be one of the biggest gray areas is the topic of love. And so from what angle are you taking this? And, hopefully that'll guide our discussion tonight.
When I came up with the idea, I'm thinking, I'm doing work behind my computer. I'm like always, my notes right here, screen here, keyboard, whatever. And the topic came to me like recently because we throw the word I love you like it's candy, like saying, yo, what's up, my dude? Or, giving somebody a handshake. There's only a few people in this world that I say I love you to that I goddamn fucking mean it. They're my brothers, my sisters, my friends. I mentioned before, I have a very, very small family. It's me, my mother, my father, pain in the ass old man he is, and my dog Alex from blood. And I mentioned to you, Paul, before. We've been doing this, over a year now, give or take, right?
Yep.
I consider you a brother. At first, I consider you a friend. Then you got promoted to one of my best friends. Now you're promoted to my brother, my family, my everything. If you called me right now, my phone rings. I'm trying to get up the damn thing. If my phone rang right now and you tell me I need some help, whatever it is, your stalker is trying to break into your house, for example, or anything, any fucking thing. I'm in the goddamn fucking car and I'm kicking some fucking ass. I don't some ass. I don't give a shit.
There you go, black man, to give me some love also.
And that's why I made this video. I want to do this topic because we throw it like it's nothing. Why can we actually mean it? I know me and you have a little different background on some things because of a little different generations and upbringing. But one thing I will definitely say we're a little different about the way we came about, saying, sex, for example. I'm not gonna lie, I'm such a victim of it. I am a huge victim when I was younger, as my teenagers. The only thing I cared about as a kid, getting some ass as a kid. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I did say it. The girl's like, "Hey, I love you."
So you
get it in their
used
pants.
it. Hang on. So you actually used it as a tool of manipulation.
Hell, fucking yes.
In order to play with these young women's emotions and whatnot, and get them all into you and whatnot, just for the sake of satisfying your sexual urges. Am I understanding you correctly, sir?
Yes, my little ding ding and my kraken, whatever you want to call the beast of carnage, had to come out and play. Am I proud of it? No, I'm not. I'll be the first one to sit here and tell you guys. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that because I was Yes, I was a kid. I was stupid, young, whatever you want to call it. Am I proud what I did? Absolutely not. And I'm looking back, I'm looking like, you know how you try to be a good person all your life and hopefully you make it to heaven?
Hmm.
I'm probably going to fucking hell because how many times I, use my, the word I love you just get in somebody's pants.
Hmm.
I, yeah, I confessed that already during confession. And every priest who have heard it strictly saying like, well, Peter, you know the rules. Like, you're not supposed to have sex before marriage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I keep telling them, like, that's never gonna stop happening. At least I'm honest. But we throw it like it's nothing.
Hmm.
You're being married, what, 23, 24 years?
This March will be 28.
28. All right, I apologize. 28.
No
I don't
problem.
want to take you shy.
No
But
problem at all.
have you ever gotten in a really bad fight with your woman before marriage and after? But ever got to the point that you said, things you didn't mean?
Um, I would have to think about that because my personality is such. I am your classic cave dweller, meaning I typically go into a cave until I'm ready to talk about a subject. So there were times like early on, like I wouldn't talk to my wife for like 2 weeks, like no conversation really, except for
Mhm.
something important or whatever. You put gas in the car or something urgent she needs to know or something like that. But we would go into those silent things, and the reason why was because I never wanted to. Someone I guess told me a long time ago that if you say something you don't mean, you can apologize all you want, it's still out there. Like once it's released, you can never take it back. And so I never wanted to be in a position where I said something that was so mean that I couldn't justify it or that I couldn't take back. So it's hard for me to remember. I mean, we've had arguments, we've had fights and whatnot, but never something to the point, oh man, I shouldn't have said that.
That is
Either
my
that's
point.
how I was feeling at the time. But generally, I learned to pull back until I can fight fair, if you will, and not
That is
low
my point
ball or
exactly.
cheap shot or anything like that.
Because with my personal experience with women that I actually fell in love with, they know how to hit below the belt. And I'm not saying I haven't. I have to.
Mm.
But if you really love somebody, would you really go that far to hit below the belt?
Um, I think you kind of have to separate them. I mean, what you're talking about is a very that kind of love is built over time. I think that you have your emotions and there's a song that used to came out or people used to say a long time ago, there's a thin line between love and hate. Like the emotions could get so into it that you can say stuff that's like, and I've known couples, I've been unfortunately around couples who've argued and said F you, then F you, and you ain't this and you ain't that. Every word, every demonstrative that you could think of, but they're still together. You know what I mean? So some and from even just talking to you over this year and just kind of getting an understanding of Greek culture, it seems like it's very emotional in terms of how people express themselves. So I could certainly see a Greek couple saying things to one another in a household or even between brothers, cursing your brothers out or you're getting your sis. It seems like the language is so free flowing in a Greek culture that people don't necessarily tie um, intent to what is said. I mean, you guys
I
curse so much.
agree.
It's like it's like the curse doesn't hit as hard as it would if I was just coming in from the outside and I just saw it. He said that to me. I may take offense to it, but it seems like certain ways that people have developed over time how they communicate as such, where again words are just not going to land the same way as it was somebody else. So again, I think that to get to a point where it says, I love a person so much to say I would never say this to them. I think that's a very thoughtful type of love that I think you
Mhm.
have to work on your personal life, your intentions and your character in order to develop that. Says I will not say that, or even if you did say it, right, and you come up to a point to say you're so apologetic about it to say I will never say that to you again, and mean it, because they always say the best apology is change behavior. So um, if you can, have that sort of reflection and really start, making the hard changes, because again, habits are hard to break. And again, if you have a foul mouth, a lot of times that's hard to break when you are when you're with somebody who is like, hey, you need to chill on some of the things that you're saying or whatnot, but you've been used to saying it your whole life or whatnot. So again, very difficult for a lot of people to break out of that. So my nuanced answer is, you can certainly get there. It may not be necessarily on the outset.
I'll give you a better scenario here for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when my parents first split up, my family tried getting involved, and I always told them, listen, it doesn't involve us. That's between my mom and my dad. There's that marriage. Don't want to get involved. They need to figure it out, or they won't figure it out. Very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward about 6-7 months later, she got diagnosed with cancer. Actually, let me back up here a second before that. I apologize. So she went downhill with my ex, me and my mother and Alex. We found ourselves homeless because we were
Mm-hmm.
living together. So I called my cousin up. So I go, yo, dude, I'm in a situation, yada yada. He already knew some of it was going on. Like, I just need a few days of crash summer. Like, me, mom, and Alex, we won't be in a way. I go to work. He goes, he found every excuse in the book to not let me come in. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
first he said, you work for a hospital. I don't want you in here. You're going to bring COVID in. You're going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, because A, I'm vaccinated, and B, I wear a mask, and C or three, whatever, I work in the kitchen. So I'm isolated no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, oh, your mom smokes. You're a smoker too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he started to get another excuse after another excuse after another excuse after another excuse. So I'll put it this way: our relationship was literally like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember when a long time I was still in my teens. He says, "We're not cousins. We're more like brothers, bro. I know I haven't been there in your life, but I'm here now." So because he came in my life when I was my teenagers, because my mom and my uncle didn't speak. His name was also Peter, and that bothers me to this fucking day. If we're so close, would you let somebody literally sit on the road? You want to open the door, let them crash? You have the room. You have more than enough room. So what is the problem? I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Every excuse in the book you gave me was an excuse.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to fucking help. But when he was struggling, he had no money for electricity. I paid it. He had no food. I used to bring food to his house every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And you know where West Orange is. You have an idea how far I live from West Orange.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I lived even further out. I lived in Mount Pocono. So it was an hour and a half from there. Yeah, about an hour and a half with traffic.
Mm-hmm.
I commuted that every fucking weekend to make sure to help him out. But when I needed help, I got a big fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's right? That's love?
Wow.
I threw a doozy, didn't I?
Okay. All right. First of all, I blame the Greeks in part for this situation. The Greeks have so many different words for love that it almost makes the word itself doesn't have meaning. So yeah, one of the guests in here, he was in earlier tonight, said there's 3 types of love. Actually, there's about 8. So you have eros, which is passionate sexual love. You have philia. These are all Greek words, by the way, or derived from Greek words. Philia, which is like deep friendship or brotherly love. That's where we get the term like Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. ludus, which is playful love, agape, which is love for everyone, or what we certainly in the Christian faith we talk about unconditional love. You have pragma, which is long-standing love, uh, philia tua, philotia, which is love of oneself. You have storge, which is family love, and then you have mania, which is, as I said, it's like obsessive love, but it is a word for love. So you guys throw love around so much that for a lot of people, like you don't even know necessarily what it means. And then you have now there's interesting because there are groups around the world that really don't use the word love at all. So like before I got onto the show, I was looking at like in Asian cultures, the word love isn't used often. So in Japan, like even for a married couple, it's not often that you're going to hear them saying, I love you. Or in China, they don't use that term typically, that I love you, like that. They'll say something
the same way
else.
too.
They'll say like, look, you mean the world to me or something like that. Or they'll talk about some aspect of why you make them happy or something. But the word I love you, and for the Japanese, in fact, one of the articles I was reading, they said that, basically they believe that if you use the word too much, that it just loses its meaning. In fact, here, it says if a man, so like in Japan, for example, it says that, hang on, let me just, I think I just had it. Um, no, I just had it. I just lost it. But in any event, basically, if you use it too much, it kind of loses its meaning. And so people find other ways, other avenues to express love for someone than just through the words. So even then, you also have to go off of what is,
Paul, hang on.
love.
You're breaking up really bad, dude.
Am I?
Yeah.
Let me check my sound, because usually when that happens, it's usually because I got my sound too loud. But let me just check the audio. Is that a little bit better?
A lot better, yes.
Okay, so I just will lower the vibe a little bit. So yeah, so for some people, if you say it too often, it loses meaning. But then again, what does love really mean to you? I think is really the question. Because for some people, how you express love is different. I know people know about, for example, I'm sure you've heard about the 5 love languages. It's a popular book that came out several years ago that people have referred to and used both in the secular sense as well as in a spiritual Christian sense. So there's different ways how people express love. Spending time with someone is considered love. Physical touch, not necessarily sexual touch, is love. Acts,
You're breaking up again, dude.
service, receiving. I'm breaking up again.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Maybe I talk a little softer. Am I still breaking up?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, I may then have to wait for Boss Man to. My mic is popping. Let me see if I can go back. Let me just drop that volume down once again.
You should have got a beacon. You wouldn't have had his problems.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna talk at this level and see if I and put the mic a little bit away from me. So it's a little better there. All right, is that still good? You hear me all right? Okay. All right. So again, we talk about those 5 love languages. So again, quality time, physical touch, act of service, receiving gifts, and then words of affirmation. A lot of times, that is how people express love to one another. But I'm that type of person where your words, like saying I love you, really doesn't mean as much to me. I'm an acts of service type of guy. So again, if you show up how you show up is how I feel your love. So for the guy, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're my boy. You're back in the day, and you helped me out so much or whatever." But if they don't pay it back, then yeah, I wouldn't feel it. But at the same time, I've also realized, and I talked about this on the show on BMU's network last Sunday on the plug. Some people just don't have capacity to love you. You know what I mean?
True.
It's either it's not in them to give or to sacrifice that. It doesn't mean that they don't have feelings for you, but they don't have the bandwidth to love you the way you need to be loved. And for me, that was something that I had to learn to accept and lower my expectations of certain people. So in your situation where you found yourself in a homeless situation and people did not have the bandwidth mentally, or they didn't have the capacity, or whatever it is, you have to take that for what it is. Is it, do they still have friendly or affection for you? Possibly. But are they able to be there for you in the way that you need them to be there for you? Not always. And that can be a painful discovery. That can be a painful feeling to have to go through. But I think that does happen with people. So if you're the type of person who you need to surround yourself with people who have not only good or friendly or loving feelings towards you, but also capacity, then those I think are conscious decisions that you need to make in terms of the type of people in your life. So I just want to hopefully kind of level set that a little bit, if that makes sense. But again, I've had to learn some of that. If you love me, you'll do this. But there's very few people who can kind of fill that. You know what I mean? And so that for me, that's for me, that's where the that's where the nuance is. I mean, yeah, if he had the space to bring you in, he just didn't want to bring you in at all. Then yeah, I mean that's pretty messed up. But am I going to say he didn't love you? At least love you at a certain level, or love you based on one of those the definitions of love that I talked about in that list? Maybe, maybe not. So, how do you feel about that?
I'm still torn towards like more. He was more selfish than anything
Mm-hmm.
because he had the room. There are times that we're having conversations and stuff like that, and he, like, what the fuck? I'm like, dude, don't fucking yell. I'm a fucking grown ass man. Load your fucking voice, but bitch slap you, and I'll make you back to sperm again. So it was just to the point, like what he did. Fuck me. I don't give a shit about me. My mother. I'll give you another example with him. All right. He used to bitch so much just to come see me his end once a year. And the drive's so fucking long. It's an hour and a half. And the way he drive, he did it in 45 minutes. No offense. He's a Jersey typical driver. No offense, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he had to come, when he drove up here, he had to be stoned. He could not come sober. To this day, I can't figure that out. Mm-hmm. When we moved closer, now we're about 45 minutes from West Orange. Still didn't want to come up. It's too far. But going to, to Astoria and Queens is about an hour also from his house. He's down there every weekend hanging out with his boys and stuff like that. But that's not that far enough, right? Mm-hmm. I don't understand how that one is okay, one is not.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think you're gonna have to. Again, Boss Man just saying now says, I think love is a series of actions translated into emotions, but love is not an emotion itself. Rather, it is a series of emotions which are acted upon. So he goes really deep into the definition. If you want to post that, Boss Man, if you get a chance, post that when you yeah. So that's very.
I agree with the statement completely. Let's break it down for a second here between me and you, Paul. Mm-hmm. I believe in actions. All right. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, don't run away because you disagree. Let's have a conversation. Mm-hmm. We can disagree to agree. Mm-hmm. I believe in that. Me and you have disagreed multiple times, but we still agree on it because we disagree. Mm-hmm. And so respect.
Yeah.
Same thing with
And a lot of
family.
times I actually like disagreement,
Hmm.
because in the disagreement, I don't want to sound like an echo chamber, always listening to what's in my head. I want to hear different perspectives from different people, and then it also help me to really solidify my arguments. So if you come up with an objection, I disagree because of this, this, and this, then I have to check and see, okay, how strongly am I clinging to this belief I have or this opinion that I have in something, so it's useful. I think healthy debate, I think healthy conversation is it helps us grow. We talk about ironing, sharpening iron. I think that's a
I agree.
positive. I think that's a positive. I think that's a positive state to be in. I think you should surround yourself with people like that in your life who disagree. So again, you expand your view. You can expand your knowledge when you do that. But as far as this situation in particular, again, I talk about capacity, and we got to understand that there are people who um, there are people who simply do not have the capacity to give you what you want. Now, again, how you respond to that, whether or not you want these people in your life or not. Like I have relatives that I know that can never do a thing for me. I have siblings who I know who can never do a thing for me. It doesn't mean I don't love them, but I recognize that what I had to do, I had to again change my expectations of them. And so, and likewise, you have you know, again, a person can do something for you who doesn't have any feelings for you, but they do it in the sense that they may be, because you're a human being, because you are, they think it's simply. I know some people, they just think it's the right thing to do.
Hmm.
I don't have any feeling for you, but I'm not going to let if you found yourself homeless. Now again, I'd have to talk to my wife and get her input.
Obviously.
Like we've done that in the past. We had a couple. We had a very very young. You talk about under 20-year-old couple, married couple with a son, who lived with us for a couple months about 10 years ago, and that was something that my family didn't necessarily buy into. I mean, they kind of trusted me as sort of like the leader, and it's like, okay, this is, you're the head of the house, and you are the you're the you run the show or whatnot. But they weren't happy about it. But at the same time, they recognized it was the right thing to do, because I couldn't allow, or I couldn't see a young couple with a kid who was maybe like 3 years old out on the street. And at the time, I had the bandwidth. Again, I talk about that again. Yeah, we had an extra room that if I didn't have the bandwidth, that I could not. That was something I just couldn't let slide easily. So they trusted me there. And again, it lasted for a minute, and then it got to a point where they were able to certainly to move on with things. It's not to say that my family grew used to or comfortable with them being there. So again, it doesn't even have to be about love. That, oh, we love these people so much we got to take them in. Some people just do things because it's the right thing to do.
Oh, I agree 100% because sometimes that is the right thing to do. But in my case, that was family. That's a little different too. Can we agree
Mm-hmm.
on that?
Um, Honestly, again, after all this time, I think it's the same thing. Like I've gotten to a point in my life where again I look at individuals. I don't look at titles. You know what I mean? So you could be a relative, you could be a cousin, you could be a sibling, you could be you can be what whatever. But again, it's how you show up. I got friends of mine that are closer than my siblings, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
So it does. So again, family is these days. Family is kind of fluid in a lot of respects. So again, where I get the love from, would I love to get it from those who are closest to me by blood? Sure. But the reality, at least in my life, the way it's manifested itself, I always got it from I've always got it from other people. One of my guys, Eric, he's in the chat tonight. Again, closer than a brother to me. Whereas different as me and you are different.
Mm-hmm.
But he's fam. And so, so it's yeah, so I don't put that label on people. Oh, your family is supposed to help me. It's nice. You can teach that. I try to teach my daughters to be nicer to one another. I know they love each other, but they their personalities are so different that they sometimes do and say things that's like, hey, y'all shouldn't be saying that. Y'all shouldn't be doing things. Jason Ness, there's a difference between being kind and being nice. Be kind. Being nice should only happen once in a while. It's a good point. It's a good perspective. But I'm just saying, but it doesn't necessarily have to be love. I guess that's my point. That you don't that the idea of someone doing, whether you're nice or kind, you don't necessarily have to associate the word love with that. Just to do something for someone else, whereas somebody can say I love you all day long, or they may even have emotional feelings for you, but it doesn't necessarily translate into the actions that you need at the time, either because they don't want to or because they can't. And so that's just always a place I've been in my, I would say probably since 40. I've kind of been in this space. I've kind of lowered my expectations of certain things, of what I expect from people. And for me, it's just easier it's just easier to navigate when I kind of know, okay, this, I can expect this from you or not. If I try to overexpand what you can give, then it becomes stressful. But if you can only give me this, fine. If I need it, fine, I'll take that from you. But if you can't, then I'm not going to hold it against you either. So managing expectations, I think, is something that I've learned, maybe as a coping mechanism or just as a way to move where I'm not so overly attached to people or getting my feelings hurt because someone disappointed me. The Wife School Podcast, again, thank you for coming through tonight, says you can love being kind, you can love helping, so love is attached because that's your character. Okay, if you want to define that way also. But again, it doesn't have to be, and I think where Peter was going initially with this, your definition of love kind of comes from more so an emotional attachment.
Mm-hmm.
More so than these, like I said, we have these different types of love. We talk about agape, we talk about this sort of unconditional. Again, it's not that you have to have a familial connection to somebody, or even affection. Yeah, so these are the different loves that are there. But again, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to have an emotional connection to someone to give the type of love that the Wife School Podcast is talking about. But conversely, you can have all the Eros love that you want. I've seen a lot of Eros couples that are very dysfunctional. You're just attracted, like you probably been in relationships where if you're not copulating, you're fighting. But the physical attraction is just off the chain. It's like it's that love hate kind of thing. You can't stand being around each other for more than 2 hours, but you're so attracted to each other that it just drives. It's almost like an animal magnetism that just kind of pulls you together. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy for you either. So again, I think the way we think about love and how we manage love in our lives, we can go with these definitions that have been laid out for us. But I think for each of us, we have to each one of those, I think, requires a certain kind of work, a certain kind of thought process that goes into it. And again, managing the expectations of those who we expect it from. And then also when it comes to ourselves, what are we able to give? We got to be honest with ourselves about that. So again, my wife and family, my wife and kids, that's to the death. You know what I mean? It's like, if there was a hostage situation, they took my wife and kids or whatever, I'd be like, look, take me instead, and I'll go down on my shield. I'll go down on my shield on that. Siblings, maybe not. Even you. Now, I know we saying we're brothers and whatnot, but again, hostage situation, and you were there. Would I trade my life? I say, hey, don't take Peter. Take me instead. I don't know if I would do that. Just being real with you. That doesn't mean that I don't have affection for you. That doesn't mean that in other situations, other capacities, if I am capable of helping you in any way, shape, or form, I would. If you ask me for $100,000 right now, even if I had it, I don't know if I just so freely give it. Or $10,000.
What about million? Hey, I got to try.
Maybe if I had
They're
a
offering
billion,
money.
maybe. If I had a 1.5 billion might be the limit before I start giving out gifts of $1 million. I don't know.
Listen,
again,
you're offering money, so I thought, shoot my shot.
I'm making a
No
point.
pun intended.
I'm making a point.
Yeah, I know. I was being a smart ass.
I know. But I'm just saying, but I think everybody has to have that, and sometimes you have to have that honest conversation with the people in your life also. And when one thing before, like when it came to like giving or like money, like guys used to come lend money, ask for money with it, and for a long time I stopped lending money. It doesn't mean that I don't care for you or whatnot, but it's like, look, I don't lend money anymore, but I'll give money, but I'll give within my capacity. So you ask me for $100, I'll be like, all right, here, I can't lend you $100, but I can give you $20. And when I say give it, I mean here, it's in your hand. We don't talk about it anymore. Yeah, but I think some people, that is a true statement, but some people, their expectations are such where, hey, I thought you were my brother. Or they'll say something like, well, I would do it for you, so why wouldn't you do it for me? And so sometimes we got to understand too, love isn't always reciprocal like that.
I totally agree with you.
My wife, I used to kid with her. That scenario that I said earlier, yeah, if there was a hostage situation, you take my wife, I'm like, look, take me instead. My wife isn't doing that. Now, she doesn't like to admit that, but she knows it's true. And if you're a married man, generally, you know that's going to be true also. Men are the ones who typically sacrifice and give their lives for their spouses and their kids. It's not expected to be the other way around, no matter how much they say and have genuine feeling and affection for you. So again, now, if you're the type of person who's like, well, you should be able to give your life for me because I will give my life for you. Again, you may wind up disappointed. So the love that we're talking about, again, it has to be within a certain context, and you agree to operate in those circumstances. But again, reciprocity, like 100% reciprocity across the board, not always. So Eric, again, I've known Eric 40 years. And Andre, he's another part of the clique. We're like we were like the four horsemen minus one back in high school. We used to call ourselves that from the NWA, Ric Flair and those guys, four horsemen. So again, Eric, he's in a different life space than I am. Says even these little boys are giving their lives to protect their mom from abuse. Yeah. And I can certainly see a mom putting out, willing to certainly sacrifice herself for her children. I think that's a fairly reasonable expectation. But would she do that for her husband? I don't know. I'll sacrifice myself to save my husband. I don't know too many who's going to do that. And at the same time, my expectations are such to say, I'm good with that. You don't have to love me that hard or that deep, but have the conversations in terms of, hey, this is what I can do for you, and this is what I can't do for you. And where stuff gets messed up is when those expectations are not communicated. So again, it surprised you. So when your relative came to you and says, nah, he came up with all these different ways that, yeah, I can't help you and your mom or whatever, or he's making excuses or lying about what he had and we didn't have and all that kind of stuff. He wasn't the one. Now again, you may reassess your relationship with him. You can decide to cut that person off. You wouldn't help me and my mom when we were in trouble. I'm dead to you. You can do that if you want to, or you can simply accept that, hey, he is what he is. It's like with the Godfather. Jedi Mike, good to have you in here tonight. Late in the bowl, I obviously run the chat tonight. Appreciate you being here. Could tell you. Also appreciate you being in tonight here also. So again, I think really how we go about assessing love and measuring love and applying love, I think that has to be examined. I think we need to talk about that a little bit more, especially for the people involved. Especially if you're a couple, you need to talk about what is expected and what love looks like to you and how you want to be loved. Like I said, those 5 love languages that we often talk about. Some people need to hear it. Not I'm talking about those from the 5 love languages book. How it looks like, how it expresses itself. People don't want love; they want guarantees.
I think it's funny, but he's actually right.
That's true.
Yeah.
They want a
So
contract.
I want to hit a couple points you went over.
Mhm.
So maybe a man will love his woman more than a woman will love his man or her man. And I agree 100% that. Like, I've been on 2 very serious relationships, and I always loved them more than they loved me, and I was always okay with that part. You know, because that's, again, the old school mentality is the man is ahead, man always loves more, man, he's a king of the castle.
Mhm.
I know we're in a different generation now. That's not facts, but loving the person more, I was always okay with that. But when it came down to low blows, depends what kind of low blow it was.
Mhm.
Sometimes it could scar the whole relationship, and you're like, I don't want to be with the person anymore.
Mhm.
And that's why you have to watch what you say. I am a victim of that. When my
Mhm.
switch goes, my temper goes, I'm like, I get berserker mode. I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, I'm going after you for, you know what I'm saying? But now that I'm older, I learn how to bite my tongue more.
Mhm.
Not always that always works, but I learned how to not say what I always feel.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's better to just walk away, like they say.
Mhm.
When you, like you said, you cannot pick the whole family. Sometimes your friends are closer to your family. Again, I don't ask people, "Oh, open your house, let me crash for." No, I'm not saying that. It's just a phone call, even saying, "Hey, you good, man?" Maybe that's all I need sometimes.
Mhm.
We even forget to check up on yourselves. Like, think about it. When the last time you or your loved ones actually called and check up on each other just for, "Hey, I'm just checking, make sure you're good, man."
It's usually it's either seasonal or it's holiday. You know what I mean? It's like very rarely will I get a call out the blue, or quite frankly, will I call a sibling. The only time I will, though, and the one thing I have done, I started doing this a few years ago. If someone's on my mind beyond just a passing thought, I really do my best to reach out. You know what I'm saying? If there's somebody I'm remembering something, or just somebody just keeps, and they won't be off. I take that almost as a sign from God that I need to reach out to them. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be a phone call. It could be a text. Hey man, I was just or so hey man, I was just thinking about you and what in my heart. Hey, just hope everything's okay or whatever. Just hitting you up, just pinging you to make sure you're okay. And sometimes I would get back. It's like, oh man, you don't know, man. It's like, hey man, thanks for checking up on me. And then we may have a conversation like later on, or I say, hey man, you want to talk? Hey, hit me up later on. I know in Facebook and other apps, there's something called the poke, where you can just poke somebody just to say, hey, are you alive out there? Is the account still active? Is or wave? Some people call it a wave. Some people call it a poke. Some people call but it's just that you just pinging just to say, hey, are you active out there? Especially let's say if they were in social media for a while and then you don't hear from them for a minute. Sometimes a poke. Because sometimes you don't know if the account is good. Sometimes, their account got hacked and they got to get another one. There have been a lot of fake accounts I've replied back to and regretted because like, there's just someone hacked the account or something like that. So sometimes it's just a matter of, but again, those touch points with people. But again, it typically goes off of feeling. And if you come up more than once throughout the course of the day, then generally I'm going to reach out to you and be like, hey, I'm just checking up. Hey, I hadn't talked to you for a minute or whatever. Hey, what's going on? Hope everything's okay. Some friends of mine I haven't talked to in a year. But we still cool because when we talk, we can talk for hours. It's like we never stop talking. Because he's busy. He's got stuff going on. It's like every other month he reaches out to me. He was just in Turks and Caicos last month. Actually, no, 2 weeks ago. I'm like, you're in Turks and Caicos? I mean, but then I called him up and we talked for like 90 minutes as if like the last conversation. So sometimes it's like that as well. It's like
And I totally agree with you.
Yeah, so every relationship is going to be different based on how I manage those expectations. I got friends where, again, if I talk to you once a year, we good. I got cousins. I may reach out once a year, once every other year. We get together, we good. Some people are more in my life on a weekly basis. And I got to manage that one a little bit differently. I got to manage my relationship, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids. One of my daughters, she's very talkative. She has to have time. It's like she'll come like right where I'm at right now and just sit down and just be like, okay, she wants to talk or she wants to vent.
I'll give you an example what you're saying. One of my best friends, he lives in Greece, George. I don't get to speak to him even once a year. Sometimes we go 2 or 3 years before talking.
Right.
We follow each other's Facebooks and obviously stuff like that. That's one good thing about Facebook. You can follow people's lives. So when we talk, we're on the phone for 5, 6, maybe 7 hours because we don't get a chance to talk that often. But when we're together, something's gonna get fucked up. Somebody's gonna get some shit's gonna go down between me and him, always in a good way. I mean,
yeah.
But again, CQ, one of my best friends. I see him once a year, maybe twice. You were there when me and him got into, and I was breaking his balls, like, "Yo, can we get free this? Can we do this?" I'm like, you go, no. I'm like, but I'm working about. Like, no, Pete. So you saw my chemistry between me and you. My other best friend, King Smith. You saw my chemistry with him too.
Shout out to King, man. Get well soon. I know he just had something, so just praying for you, brother. Yep.
So the chemistry I have with those 3 guys are unique. Even you, I see you once a year, maybe, Paul? You saying?
Yeah, I mean, since we met, we hooked up twice in that time period. But we talk several times a week through these mediums. So we're always communicating. But
even when we were together, ours is different when you're on a camera and when you're physically together.
Sure.
That sounds so weird. But you know what I was trying to say?
Right.
But the chemistry when we're together, or driving somewhere or hanging out is different than we're somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I always look for, the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you got my back? Just have a conversation. Maybe I'm having a mental breakdown. You don't have to give me money. You don't have to open your house. You don't have to do none of that. Just let me vent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing you can do for anybody, I think.
Well, again, it's what I talked about earlier. You have to communicate when you talk about love or just the general theme tonight. I love you. You have to communicate what that means. What that means to you. What are your needs? And again, who in your circle can you depend on for that particular need? It may not be everybody, because not everybody necessarily needs to be in your business like that. Again, friends, yes, but not every friend needs to be. Again, there's circles and there's inner circles.
I totally agree again.
And so again, so that is, I think that is what people really need to flush out. The term "I love you" can be meaningless. Let's get back to the point of the show. Saying "I love you" can have very little weight. And for those in the chat, does that mean anything to you? Someone says "I love you." Does it matter? If your spouse, if you're married, if your spouse doesn't use the word "I love you" a lot, does it matter to you, or do you know, or are there actions, are there acts of love? Is the love language that they give you aligned with the love language that you need? They don't say "I love you" a lot, but they give you gifts. They don't love you a lot, but they cook you breakfast every morning, or they do certain just acts of service for you, or they make themselves available to you when you need them. Do they express their love in a way that you can embrace and that you and receive? But what if they didn't use it? So boss man, what if your spouse, she didn't say it often? You might hear that maybe once, couple times a year, where she really gives you that deep, "I love you." But she does everything else. She's there for you physically, all that other stuff. She's there. She makes sure that you're taken care of, all that kind of stuff. Do the words matter? The words matter as much to you. And if they do, then are they willing to meet you there for what you need? It says, "Yeah, I know you do everything else, but I really need to hear it." I go without hearing it if I see it. So you don't need it. But some people need both. That's what I'm saying. Everyone is different in terms of, again, what they need to feel loved by the people in their lives. And again, it's going to be different. The love that you need from your children. I don't need my kids giving me birthday cards and coming up and singing happy birthday to me and all. I don't need any of that stuff. In fact, I wrote very little I ever want for my kids. If anything, now the way they say, I say, "You want to love me? Buy me some lunch, right? Give me some Chipotle." My daughter called me up yesterday. She was coming home picking up my daughter from school or from college, and she was like, "Oh, Dad, I'm stopping at Chipotle. You want anything?" I was like, "Yeah," because I just finished working out. So again, Chipotle post-workout is an excellent post-workout meal. Yes, I would. Thank you very much. That's all the love I needed. That's all the love I needed to hear from them was that.
I'm the opposite. Give me a cup of coffee, and we got me in there. If you call me like, "I'm on the way home over your house, do you want anything?" Coffee would be great. Okay, that's it. Yeah. You sure you want anything? Yeah, I'm good with coffee. I'm good. Even it's funny you said that. Let me ask you this question before I tell you this statement. Mm-hmm. Have you ever told your friends, Eric, for example, you the word, "Hey, dude, you just remember, I love you, dude"?
Yeah, not often. He says it a lot more than I do.
Whoa!
He'll be like, "Eric, I don't want to embarrass you, but you and Andre. Again, that's our third, kid. You guys mean the world to me so much. I would lay down. I love you, brother, so much and whatnot." And I'm like, for me, it's a little thick, but that's who he is.
Okay, I'm gonna use two scenarios here right now. King Smith, actually, I'll use one. Sorry, dude, I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit. So I called him the night before his surgery. I want to make sure he's good. I know his wife is there, so make sure everything's cool and great and everything. I called him like, yeah, I'm good, man. I did my treadmill, like, yeah, doctor told me how to do a little cardio the night before and make sure if just get everything going. I'm like, all right. I'm like, you good? You nervous? Like, nah, I'm fine. Like he was chill as a dog. Like, all right, dude. Hey, just remember, you're coming out of this fine. You don't worry. Like, I'm good, Pete. I'm like, yo. So we went back and forth for a while. So I ended the conversation saying, dude, just remember, I love you, dude. He goes, yeah, I love you too, Pete. And he paused, like he never heard me say that because we don't was like. It's not like saying to my mom, hey, mom, I'm going for work. I love you. And like, whatever. He paused. They're like, yeah, I love you too. And I text him the next, like saying, make sure you're good, man. Like, tell him I love him. Again, I know it's a big surgery he's going through. I just make sure he's good. Second scenario, CQ. CQ does not use that word very lightly. Not even his wife. It's on a rare cases. And he just told me that. I'm like, and goes, it's just something he doesn't use. He's not part of his collaborator. And that's cool. And we're going back and forth talking about some things. And he goes, I know you love me, dude, but you've been there more than ever. And I've been same version of I don't use that word that often. It means something to me. So when we actually use that word rarely, it means something very special to us. I know it sounds strange coming from a guy to a guy, but I don't care. He's like my brother, like you. Like I might text you out around, like just want to say I'm saying, just thinking about you, saying just love you. And sometimes that's all you need. How many times, or like great example, George. I was going through something at the moment. My best friend George agrees, and out of the blue, he just like, dude, I haven't talked to you in 3 years. Just remember, I'm still here. I still love you. And I miss getting in trouble with you. That was something I just needed to hear sometimes. Sometimes you just need to hear that just to feel important. You don't need somebody to go buy you stuff. I don't believe in buying love. I never believed it. I never believe, cooking. Yeah, it's a nice gesture. It's what you show the person when you're with them. And I know he's in Greece. I'm here. Same concept with you. Like I know we're like an hour and a half away from each other, give or take.
I'm sorry.
You're like an hour away, hour and a half, an hour away from you. Yeah. So even you text me on a random, like, yo, dude, you good? Saying, just want to check up on you. Just remember, I love you. I got you back. Whatever. That's all I need sometimes to feel important. To feel somebody's got just there. And I think it goes for a lot of men out there. They just don't get what's the word I'm looking for? Acknowledgement. They're even alive sometimes. Sometimes that's why they snap. I'm not talking about deletions or doing stupid shit and getting locked. No, snapping like they just close off the world. And then you have the other people, for example, that cannot be in a relationship. They have tried and failed. If they just don't know how to love the way they need to love somebody. Because they're so used to being alone. What do you think about that scenario?
I do think there are people who are more introverted, who prefer their space and whatnot. I can only go by what you tell me. You know what I'm saying? So if you're the type of person, again, I may, you don't want anything pretty much, every once in a while you want to come out and do something. Some people, for example, I only communicate through texting. And that's it. Like, they prefer a text versus a call. Again, that's what I'm saying. With every relationship, I take it as its own individual thing. So if you truly want to quote unquote love somebody, again, you can't love everybody the same. Just like you said, I don't love my kids the same. Every one of my children is different. How I talk to them is different. How I treat them, different personalities. So again, there's no hard and fast. But again, do you have that capacity to take people? Like some people's like, I'm just a loving person. Some people like, it's funny, some older ladies, like they just love to be like, I'm not one who likes to be hugged a lot. But I'm sure a lot of folks, if you have that auntie or that church lady who just like, Kimmy, I need a hug. And you're like, I don't necessarily want a hug, but you gotta sometimes it's like, I'm gonna hug you anyway, whether you want it or not. So again, can you take people, hey, this person may like hugs and this person doesn't. Yes, I might be a very expressive person the way I do things, but again, can you manage it to such a degree that it works for them? But I don't go typically, again, I don't hug women a lot. Also, I know a lot of women just huggers and they just want to, be up on you. I'm like, a handshake is fine. Or I'll do that little side thing or whatever, and that's fine. But it's like, come here, give me a hug. You
It's
could
not your
say that's an
personality.
expression of love, but but love, if from the context that we're talking about tonight, one thing that is true about love across the board is that love is also about sacrifice. It's not about you. It's about the other person. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. But really, the intent is you love people how they want to be loved. And if that causes you that you may have to go outside of what's normal for you, then to me, that is more loving than just someone just going off of their emotions. Because a lot of that it's not about loving you at all. It's about what makes them feel good, not necessarily what's good for you. Do you have that kind of bandwidth to love people on their level? So again, we talk about management. Love is a lot. To truly love in that capacity, that takes a lot of mental work. It takes a lot of thoughtfulness. It takes a lot of, it takes conversation. So that's kind of, where I'm am with that. There's a comment that Leia in the board just typed up. I think it was at the 10:36 mark. She said, actions, Mr. B7, and all those just types. So I'll put it in the chat so anybody who wants to take a stab at it. Obviously, we talk about the 5 love languages a lot. And again, every part of it, I don't think there's just one language for a particular person. I think out of those 5 that I talked about, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, receiving gifts, and words of affirmation, I think everybody wants that at least at some level. It's just that you may need more of something else. Like I'm not like I don't need gifts, but if I get one, it's like, oh, you got, because I'm not expecting it. So if you, especially if it's something thoughtful, like if you were, again, talking about the conversation, if you were paying attention in the conversation and you picked up on something that, hey, I might have mentioned, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about getting this or whatever. I'm not sure yet, but I'm just bookmarking it for later. And then a couple months later, around birthday, holiday time, you dropped that to me and I didn't get it, whatever. I'm like, oh, it means more, because to me, the gift is that you were actually listening. Not that you just went off the cuff and says, oh, I think he'll really like this. And be like, oh, and I may get it, I may not, maybe not. Like to this day, Pete, again, I'll be married 28 years. I don't buy things for my wife. I don't buy her gifts. Because again, I could look at 2 pairs of shoes and I can put my Terminator analysis on them, and I can say these shoes are 99.6% identical. I gave it to her. One of them is cute and one of them is ugly. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're essentially the same shoe. And she gives me that look like a lot of ladies do. It's like, they ain't the same shoe. Okay, women, sometimes y'all got 128 colors and men have 64 or 28 or whatever the number is. I may have fewer colors in my crayon box than you do. But that nuance matters. And so a long time ago, it's like, I'm not buying, I don't buy jewelry for her. I don't buy clothing. I don't buy shoes. If she comes out and says, oh, I like this, then I'll be like, okay, well, you should need to go and get it, and then we just get the thing. But for me, just to decide arbitrarily I'm gonna buy, because again, she's even after all this time, I still haven't figured her out yet. And she'll call out something. It's like, oh, that's really cute. And I look at it. It's like, you think that's cute? But I don't say anything. You think it's cute? Okay, fine. It's cute. So again, it's not about, you know, how I think about the situation. It's like, what matters to her? And then do I have the bandwidth or the capacity to match what she is communicating verbally and non-verbally to me in the discourse that we're having?
I think we're a little different on that matter because I have bought things for my girlfriends, not because I want them to love me more. Like that, just and like for example, I know they needed something like, I got it for them. You know what I'm saying? I will hook them up, whatever. You know, maybe there's tied up funds or whatever. Or when we're living together, I know she's for example, she's running out of makeup. I'm using a weird example. Okay, I got you. I know you're get paid in 2 weeks, and I just got paid. I'll take care of it. But I don't know. I don't see like I'm trying to buy you love when I'm trying to just help you out. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, what do you mean by love though?
I was with her.
I'm saying, but is that how you buy gifts for someone who you love?
I'm
That's
gonna
very different than buying love.
I'm gonna explain why.
Okay.
Right now. I was with her name was Sherry actually. And Sherry loved buying me things every single week. It was getting to the point like, okay, enough is enough. I went to her. It was like, first was just a gold necklace. Like, oh, I don't know about this. Like, it was colognes. Okay. Then it was shoes, clothes, and it was being a habit. Towards the end of the relationship, like, okay, I said, enough. Like, you can't buy me. Because, and this is her statement. She goes, oh, you say you like that? Like, yeah, I said I like it. Doesn't mean I'm going to go buy it. I like a lot of things in life. And same as you, Paul, you might see something online like, oh, I like that. Actually, it's cool. Sure. Doesn't mean you're going to run by it. Great example, cars. How many cars you see online or driving to work? Oh, I like that car. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you're going to go run and buy it.
Right.
And this is where the breaking of the ice was for me with her. Was we're driving past the Lincoln X, the SUVs. I go, oh, I really like that fucking car. I went to her. The fucking next day, she's at the dealership trying to buy the fucking thing. Wow. I'm like, and then when she comes in, like, where are you? I go, just got done work. Can you head to the Ford dealer? Why? She goes, I got a surprise for you. Surprise. Oh, fucking don't tell me you're trying to buy a car. I went to myself. I'm like, so I get there. It was like, hey, miss, yeah. And I'm like, I'm trying to buy this car for you. I'm like, not happening. I'm like, what? But you say you like it. I'm like, yeah, I like it. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy a car. Mm-hmm. Like, most men will be like, fuck you. I'm buying a car. We break up. The car's still mine. You pay for it. I wouldn't either way. But I couldn't do it, bro. I'm like,
let me ask you this. So did you guys, though, have a serious conversation?
Several times.
About why? So why was she doing this?
That's how she is. She always bought everything for everybody. For her brother, for her mother.
But I'm saying, but is there something? So like I said, I don't mind if that's how you express, a person expresses their love in different ways. Some people cook for you, some people buy things for you, whatever. Again, if they have the capacity to do so and they're doing it out of love, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with if they're doing it in order to get love. That I have a problem with.
I think that's what it was.
Again, so did you ever get down to determine because she loved that she gave, or that she's giving to get love? Was that ever? What was that?
To get love. That's the only way she knows.
Okay, then that's a problem. Yeah, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that in that case, the idea of buying buying love. No, it's not. That's not how she loves. Right? He just said that again. She's buying to get love.
And she even told me towards the end of our relationship, like, I can't buy anything with money, even you. How much would take it? She literally said that. How much would it take for you to stay with me?
Yeah.
I'm not fucking for sale.
She just made it plain to you that again, she buys in order to get.
Mm-hmm.
Some people those who can truly give, they're giving out of their abundance, they're giving out of because they love. And the thing is, she wanted something back. She wanted your love in return. When
Yeah.
you give freely, you're not expecting anything in return. Now, I don't need anything. I do this just like, people who love to cook for you, people who love to spend time with you. It's that they're not wanting necessarily something from you. So in that case, yeah, that kind of quid pro quo, that kind of relationship, yeah, that could be very unhealthy. Because once she gets to a point where she realizes she can't have what she wants, then it's, it goes off the rails, which obviously it did in this relationship. Now, some people who didn't, and the fact that you had, love for her, a lot of people who don't love, they would certainly exploit that situation. And I just couldn't, because I know in growing up, the way, especially the way women were raised, certainly around my family and just folks I know in my community, you were told as a woman you don't accept gifts from a man, at least not right away. So you go on a date or whatever, and he's got gifts, he's buying you jewelry and all this kind of stuff, and you're taking it. It's like, no, give that back. Because if he thinks he's trying to buy you by showering you with gifts, no, that's not how we roll here. We look at character. We look at really what his true intentions are. And if he's looking at this as he thinks he can buy you, then it's like, no, my daughters are not for sale. At least again, the older generation, that's how they used to think. Now everybody's like, get the bag, girl, get the bag. But back then it was like, no, if you came home, oh, look what he bought for me, Dad. It's like, give it back to him. He bought you a Birkin bag, give it back to him. Men have men have a nasty habit of doing this too. I think people who do this do so as some imbalance of confidence and chooses to compensate for what they feel they are lacking. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Because men do have the bad habit.
Mhm.
When they're going out for dinner, for example, they have to pay for the whole meal, buy her flowers, whole 9 yard.
Yeah. And then a
Maybe
lot of
not
times they
even that.
complain later on that, oh, she only wants something for my money.
Yeah,
Well,
we're our own critics. We're our
you
own enemy.
led with money on the date. You led with your with your status.
I have
And
a
so
rule
if that
when I go
yeah.
out for dinner.
Hmm.
So depends where we go. We're gonna say we go for dinner and pool, for example, right?
Hmm.
If she tries to pay for one or the other, I know she's not trying to just care what I can buy her and stuff. Like I've been on dates. She goes and I thought, all right, let's get out. Let me run to the bathroom and get out there. I tell me, oh, I already paid. That's a good sign for me.
Hmm.
Like even if it was like a pool was like $20, for example,
Hmm.
or excuse me, or we're extra or whatever other event we went to do. If she paid by the time I get back, that tells me she's not there for just what I is in my credit card
Hmm.
or my bank account. She really
Right.
cares to get to know me.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then now,
I would definitely take that as a good. I would
yeah,
definitely take
as
that
the
as a good
generation
sign.
we're living now, if she's offered to pay, that's a plus.
Yeah, yeah, for
Doesn't mean I'm
sure.
gonna let her. That's a different story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I want to get back to something that you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, obviously the woman who was trying to buy you essentially. I mean, that's one thing. But are you one who has wife school? I would be responsible knowing how she hasn't stopped telling her thing. um, how are you at accepting receiving love though? Because I've seen this in certain people as well. there's a lot of people who are what they call themselves like they're givers. They love to give, and I might have been guilty of this at some point myself. At some point in my life, they're givers in that sense, but they have difficulty receiving love. Have you ever seen yourself in that situation, or have you ever seen that up close? What that looks like? That you just have a problem when somebody tries to do something for you because they love you and it's legitimate. It's not to say I'm trying to buy you, but it's legitimate that they do this out of love for you or whatever. And hey, and you're like, oh, I can't accept that, or you feel uncomfortable receiving when someone does that for you.
Like buying a gift, you mean, or just love me in general?
Well, however that manifests itself, I would say gifts
So I
certainly for sure, but obviously that's a very material way of doing it. And again, depends on the relationship also. So it could be like a friend, like a non-romantic friend of yours. If CQ just got you something, it's like, oh wow, this is thanks,
that's funny you said that, because CQ is not a gift buyer or gift giver. And he has made that perfectly clear over the years. And the 1 year when I first started my whole YouTube journey, and he saw I was working hard. And let's be honest, Paul, this YouTube stuff is not cheap. The mics and all this stuff. So he bought me a little kit that at first I started with my iPhone. He bought me a little kit and he mailed it to my house. I'm like, oh wow. I was surprised in a very good way. Now, receiving love in general from a woman, for example, what's the word I'm looking for? I would love to have that right now, in general. To have a woman that loves me for who I am. Because at the end of the day, the only thing I ask for is peace in my house. I don't want to argue. I don't want to scream. I don't want to think throwing. None of that shit. Peace and love. That's all I care about. And that means the most to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's but I'm saying, but you never went through a time period where you felt uncomfortable when, again, someone went out of their way to do something for you. Because I do think there's people out there who don't think that they are worthy of being loved. When you talk about someone who may have low self-esteem, again, they give out of that low self-esteem. It's not out of a healthy place. The woman that you were dealing with, that wasn't necessarily coming from a healthy place. And people oftentimes operate off of that. So a lot of times it's like you don't feel, hey, what's up, boss man? You don't feel that you are worthy of being loved. And so you
I agree. Yeah, I have been there. Yeah, I've been there. I've been to the point that the woman loved me to death. And I don't think I was worthless. I thought I was a broken condom that happened. That's how far I went.
Wow.
Yeah. And end of the day, maybe I was too young. Maybe I wasn't ready to be in a serious relationship. But I dealt with it my own way. Maybe I didn't deal with it correctly back then.
That's a good point. Yeah. Thank you for chiming in. Yeah, boss man, what's going on?
Not too much. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing well.
Great.
Doing well. Anything you want to add to this conversation today? Thanks for participating. I know you've been dropping some dimes in there as usual, but you coming up, so I know you're about to drop something. So
yeah,
whatever you want to say.
I'll definitely give it a whirl. So I wanted to yeah. Don't boy me. So firstly, very good conversation. I wanted to touch on the specificities of what love is, because I think we danced around this topic a little bit. I'll turn my mic down just a little bit. There we go. All right. We danced around this topic a bit because we didn't necessarily define what love necessarily is. And a lot of times, yes, we throw around I love, whatever case may be, and we never really peel back the onion of what it is. So I want to take just a moment, if I can, to just do that.
Sure.
Okay. So when we think of love, we oftentimes think that love in itself, LOVE, love in itself is a feeling, and it's not. The very first time that someone says, I love you, usually, and it usually comes from women, but men do it too, the first thing we usually do is say, prove it, or how do you know, or show me. These things usually result in some sort of product of some sort. And you can't necessarily prove a feeling. And if you do prove a feeling, is usually by an action. It's usually by some sort of performative matter of some sort. Okay. So if someone's sad, what do? They cry. If someone is hurt, what do? They usually recluse. They are solemn somewhere. Like there's usually some sort of physical action that you can tell that someone is sad. But the actual feeling internal is intangible, right? So what ends up happening is feelings in itself is a byproduct of a thought. So let's walk this back a little bit. Feeling is a byproduct of a thought. Thoughts can either be conscious or subconscious, right? So when you feel something, just like in psychology, if you are sitting down and you are going through, let's say, a psych session, someone says, you felt that. Well, let's talk about it. What made you feel that way? They usually walk through what's going on in the brain as far as what happened to make you feel that way. And is usually a byproduct of what you thought, whether it was subconscious or conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now that we've walked through, the feeling is a byproduct of a thought. Now, when you have determined that you love someone, it's usually because it is a compendium or some sort of amalgamation of different feelings that you've come to a realization that you have, whether that's trust, whether that's joy, whether that's attachment, because some people usually conflate attachment with love. Not the same. So whether that's again, joy, trust, attachment of some sort, some sort of connection of some sort, whatever the case may be, which then constitutes an action. Now, that action then by the other person is translated to mean, oh, this person must love me because they are acting this way. Now, what happens is that when you perform that action, this person thinks and says, oh, I'm thinking that this person loves me because I'm now convinced by thought, because of the action, that they must love me. So you have to convince someone by thought to feel, and it becomes this cycle of action, thought, feeling turns into an action, thought, feeling. So love in and of itself is not necessarily an emotion. It is a compendium of feelings that you then turn into action that someone then translates and recognizes as action, as love. Now, what ends up happening is usually whenever I do this, someone then asks me the question, well, what is the difference between loving someone? Because loving, there we go, ing, verb, action.
The action part, right. Mm-hmm.
There you go. You got it. So then someone says, what's the difference between loving someone and in love with someone? The difference is that commitment. If you are committed to this cycle of love with someone, that's how you know that you are in love with someone. Because whatever that cycle is of love that you have, I guess, involved yourself in with that person, because everyone loves differently. Mm-hmm. And if you love that person's love, or if you like that person's love and how they effectuate it, and you're committed to continuing that cycle of thought, feeling, action, translation, thought, feeling, action, translation, that's when you are in that cycle. So this is where people, but in society, we just throw it around as if it's just something that's
I
just.
think you're right. I think we do, but I want to go back to because what you're saying, I think a lot of pushback people are going to have is because you look it up, any psychology text or whatever. Love is an emotion. At least that's the way they define it. You're saying love is a part of a cycle of thought, action, and I'm sorry, what
Thought,
was that?
feeling, action.
Thought, feeling, action.
Action.
Now the question is, can the feeling exist apart from the thought or the action?
It can exist without the action, but it can't exist without the thought. Because it's impossible to feel without the thought. It's either conscious or subconscious.
Okay.
Boss, let me ask you a question because I want to make sure I clear understand.
Sure.
Are you saying love is not a feeling or emotional? It's more something else?
He says, in other words,
Yeah, you brought that up.
say it again, Sparta.
Are you saying love is not a emotion?
No,
It's more a feeling?
correct.
Never thought of that.
But the thing is that it's not necessarily, love in and of itself is not solipsistic. It's not something that exists in and of itself. It's an amalgamation of different feelings that once realized or once, because love is different for everybody. So what I might say, different feelings that every human being could necessarily feel, 20% of this, 50% of that, 15% of this, that might equal to me love.
Mhm.
Right? Paul, it might be different for you. Sparta, it might equal something different for you. Right? We all perceive it differently.
But the difference does not disqualify it from existing. You know what I mean? Like, so to take it to say it's not an emotion because we can't pinpoint it or more strictly define it. It's going to differ for every person. However, the person comes to the calculus, the what goes on in here is still going to exist. It's almost like some people say the same thing about God, right? I mean, it's like, how can you know there's a God? You can either feel God or you can, everybody may have their own definition of what God is.
Okay.
But is it something that you can necessarily pinpoint? So I don't think that the fact that you can't define it or crystallize it or say how you get there doesn't necessarily mean it exists. But I think because it varies across cultures, across individuals, I still think it's something that can exist independent of itself. At least that's the thing I'm still being caught up on.
Right.
When you try to separate it, or when you say that you need the action, the thought and the actions in order to drive the feeling, but even that feeling is different from the emotion of love. That disconnect I'm still not grasping as of yet. So maybe if you can clarify that for me.
Okay. So hang on, because I want to find this a little bit later. So I had a kind of a it's a now of course I cannot find it. I'm going to find it a little
Always
bit later.
happens.
Yep, because I had
Always.
a psychology kind of sort of flower that basically lines up all of the different emotions that people feel. And then what it does is it basically pinpoints and says between these two feelings right here, or these groups of feelings right here, these equal love in a sense, right?
Well, I have something. Somebody says like a flower. I have something here. And
Yeah.
it lists joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, anticipation.
There you go. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's essentially what I'm pointing out is saying that you can pinpoint fear. You can pinpoint and say that right there is fear. That right there is joy. That right there is, let's say,
Surprise.
happiness, surprise. Right.
Mhm.
But when you throw out their love, right? Now we get ambiguous. Now we get to a point where it equals something different for everybody, right? And there's a reason for that. It's because it in and of itself, the reason for that is because it must equate to something different for everybody, number one. But then two, anytime you even mention it to anyone, the first thing they want is proof. The first thing they want is show cause. The first thing they want is an action. Love is patient. Well, you have to exude patience. Love is kind. Well, you have to exude that. Right? Everything about love is about proving or showing or exuding some type of characteristic in and of itself. Different types of emotions, different types of characteristics, different type of aspects of humanity. So with that in mind, this is where I have to say that you must look upon someone, see what they're doing, translate it, and then be convinced in the brain in order to produce a feeling, in order to I guess come up with or assume that someone does. Because in that case, two people can see the same action and get different results from that same action.
That's right.
Right? So, because otherwise, we can sit here and talk about the same woman, and we can tell Sparta that, hey, Sparta, that woman right there, the woman that was willing to spend a whole bag to buy the car, that woman right there loves you. And Mr. Bennett would say that woman was crazy. She needs help, right?
Right.
Okay. See? So from different people, from different aspects, it may differ because some people might appreciate that type of affection or expression, right?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to quantify. But that's why I'd asked him, did he have a conversation with her as to why she wanted to do that, and she admitted.
Yep.
That she was basically looking to buy him. It's like she asked straight up, how much do I have to spend to buy you? Is essentially what she said to him.
I'm not for sale.
So she kind of showed her hand that it wasn't out of she had this love for him that she wanted to do this. That she basically wanted something from him that she couldn't buy. So again, whatever that intangible thing, either it wasn't within herself, and she tried to get something that is intangible through tangible means.
Correct.
And so again, I think love, like I said, the fact that we put tangible definitions on it, like love is this, love is kind, love is patient, whatever. But we still can't see it. We can't touch it per se. We just know what it looks like, what it acts like. But because we can't see or touch it, that's what I'm saying. It's like faith. I mean, Lady Nova talk about faith. Again, a lot of that you can't see or touch or whatever, but it manifests itself in ways that we can relate to. But it's still there. It's still present. That's what I say. I don't want to necessarily. I think it's something that I think humanity, I don't know if we will ever fully comprehend it. It might exist like in another dimensional plane that we are incapable of processing, but it just manifests itself in ways that we can digest. Maybe love is a concept or a construct that's too high for us to really understand. I think that's why you find some of that godly language. It's like, well, God is love. Or that if you want to love, you need to love the way Jesus loved, the way that God loved. It always points to somebody or some example of something. But for us, it's just an emotion that we can't fully process. So the best way to process it is to manifest it through certain actions. And you still may not get it, or the other person still might not feel it, but that might be like the best we can do, just given our limitations as human beings. If that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, and that's, I mean, the prompt of the show actually defines to some degree what it is that I'm saying. What does it mean to you? Mm-hmm. And for you to be able to define it, you have to be able to one, observe it. Two, you have to be able to translate it, and then you have to be able to uh, uh, receive it, and then be able to, effectuate it to some degree of
Mhm.
what it of what it means once you have actually been able to receive it and allow it to affect you to be able to express it.
Mhm.
So, and then of course, what type of love rings to you,
Mhm.
which means if someone were to actually act upon it, demonstrate it demonstrably to some degree, you have to be able to pick up and say, that right there, I recognize and would appreciate as a type of love that I would recognize and appreciate, right?
Mhm.
So that means that love in itself would have to be demonstrated,
Yeah, for sure.
action,
Yeah.
which means if you're saying that love is intangible, but yet it has to be demonstrated, then we're talking in a conflated terms here. Because something that is intangible cannot be demonstrable here.
I think, like I guess that's why I use that language of dimension. I think again, I think you could look at it godly in the same God in the same sense. If we say God is transcendent,
Okay.
we like to use that language. But again, is he demonstrable? Now, again, some people would say he's demonstrable through his actions, through the sun and
Like
the moon and the
wind.
stars and the wind or the whatever. Yeah, but But outside of those, are we even capable of truly perceiving? And I think that's part of I would say, I won't even say religion. I would say spirituality is
Yeah.
that's the practice of sort of getting through a mental or spiritual plane. Again, we can't even define if there's a spirit. I mean, how can you put how can you quantify that? If we're saying, are we physical beings with a spirit or a soul? And if that soul exists from the body, we can't necessarily quantify that either. But that's part of, again, that spiritual practice of trying to align and getting contact with your soul. And then if that soul then is a way that you can connect to God, then you try to feed it and manifest that. I think love kind of works the same way. I think you could certainly do a lot of actions, but even the actions of in and of themselves are not necessarily guarantees that love will follow.
Hmm.
And so those are things that we constantly, again, the things we it's complex. I think human beings, we've always been looking for it. We've been searching for it. We've tried to actualize it. Even the 5 things that I talked about, that might not be everything. Those love languages that everyone talks about, that might not be everything. But we're
So
trying
you
the best as we can as human beings to create this atmosphere or this environment of what you're talking about, this reciprocity of actions, feelings. Uh, um, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting actions, feelings, and what was the third?
so it'll be thought, feeling,
Thoughts.
action.
Yes, thoughts. Where the humanity is constantly trying to manifest these things. It's a daily work. Like I said, I'll be 28 years in March, and I'm still trying to manifest it. I don't take, and one thing I've done specifically, how I even talk about my marriage in terms of its length, I don't say I've been married 27 years. I say I'm in my 28th year of marriage. And I do that intentionally because what I don't want is I can't take for granted the previous 27. That in my mind, it's like a football season. Like I have to constantly prepare for the next season. If I take for granted that I've been married 27 years, I'm good. I've known people who've divorced after 30, 40, 50 years. So again, that working is a constant thing that I have to strive to always continue to actualize with my wife, with my children, with my extended family, with my friends. It's a constant thing, but I think that's part of what it is to be human. That or I think what I would consider high human functionality is to be in pursuit of this thing called love, even though I can't necessarily bullseye it, but I constantly work every day to manifest it in ways that I can feel and that is also felt by those who I love.
Yeah, but I would the only I have a couple of pushbacks, but
Sure.
me personally, I don't think that you would be able to sustain a season in your marriage, season after season after season of marriage. And in my marriage, I wouldn't be able to sustain it if I didn't believe or see any tangible existence of what I perceived to be acceptable uh, uh, examples or morsels of love, tangibles of what I believe was love. If it was so immortifying, or if it was so ethereal
Mhm.
as you're making it out to be, in a sense, because and if it was so ethereal, then the answer to the prompt of the question would be impossible to answer.
Mhm.
Right now, like the soul question, for instance, science will tell you that the soul is tied to the brain, or it's energy it's energy for the most part, okay? And the spark of life, energy, matters to the brain and is tied there. Our personalities, our essence, and so on and so forth is relative to it's matter to the brain in a sense. Okay, so one thing that science does agree with relative to spirituality is that the soul, energy, mass, spirituality, it's tied to brain. Okay, so if I'm saying that love is a cycle of thought, feeling, action,
Mhm.
and it starts in the brain, and these two who are diametrically opposed to each other, between science only dealing with the corporeal and spirituality only dealing with ethereal, then I'm saying I'm meeting in the middle, and I'm saying that everything starts here.
Mhm.
Then to me, it would sound to reason that, to me, this is where the rubber meets the road, here, right here, objectively here in the middle, is that it is something that is tangible. Now, whether it is something that is, how do I put it? Something that is, and I wouldn't say ambiguous, because ambiguous means that it's not something that is, it's too loose in a sense.
Mhm.
Whether it is something that is kind of auxiliary to different people, it plugs in different for different people, obviously. But it is something I believe that it is tangible, because you have made it very tangible for you for 28 years. Okay. And if it changed, it is so tangible that if it did change, you would notice it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. For me, it's been 10 years strong, but I've only been married 6. If it changed, I would notice it. So I think where the connections between me and my wife, you and your wife, if those connections were to ever disconnect, it would be very tangibly, intangibly noticeable. Wouldn't you
Right.
wouldn't you say that?
But because I'm paying attention to it,
Okay.
and I pay attention to it on an annual basis,
Okay.
not necessarily because again, I've asked people, like, the ones who've been married 25 plus and divorced.
Okay.
A lot of it, sometimes it's not even like a singular event or causality to it.
Okay.
It's drift. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's like, if you, like they say, like a ship on the water, if you let it shift 1 degree over,
It's
the
gonna,
thing over
yeah,
time, it's going to be
correct.
over here.
Absolutely.
And then couples are asking themselves, well, look, how do we get here?
What happened? Yep.
Because you weren't paying attention. You weren't conscious. And the one thing I did say about love, if anything, in my discussion tonight, especially looking at Peter's examples, you have to be conscious in your participation in loving. So again, that's why I said earlier, the conversations that you have, the expectations that you have of other people. Like I said, I had to get off of this thing of, well, you're this to me, so therefore you must do this. You're my brother, so you must do this. You're my sister. You're my mom. I should expect this from you.
I wouldn't say guarantees. I would say expectate. I would change his word from guarantees to expectations.
I've been using expectations the whole night. But again, letting go of your expectations.
Okay.
Based on your actions. So again, it's like, well, you should do this for me because I did it for you. Again, it's a quid pro quo as far as, you know, your expectations of love from another person. Or this
it shouldn't have to be like that, Paul.
Or this 50-50 thing that people talk about.
Oh, it shouldn't have to be
relationships are never 50-50. There's going to be times when, depending on what it is, financial, emotional, whatever, you're going to go through these valleys. You're going to go through these things where it's like, look, you might have to carry the weight for a while. Because I might be incapacitated in some form or fashion.
Certainly.
Where I can't be there in the way that you need me to be.
Certainly. And now I'm not going to. I think you touched on something earlier that I wanna slightly. Slightly reword. I don't think that love is slightly so intangible. I think it's elusive. I think that when it comes to everyone finding their person or finding their connection, I think that part right there, first of all, everyone loves differently. Okay. So then it's finding that right person that you connect with relative to personality, relative to how they love. And then if that cycle or that connection works well with you, that part can be elusive. The other part of it is I did find the flower really quick. And so for the sake of the show, I do want to show it if I may, because this part here is in, oh crap, hang on. Can I view it, and will it let me view it without changing? There we go. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Serenity, joy, ecstasy, admiration, trust, acceptance, pin them together. And the white is the white feelings in itself. Those are the intangibles in a sense. Okay. Yes. Optimism, aggressiveness, contempt, remorse, disapproval, awe, submission. These are the ones that you can probably say are largely intangible, but you can observe them, but they're not necessarily things that you can actually pinpoint and say, this exists in isolation, because it takes all 6 of these to equal 1 is the point I'm making. It takes 6 of these to equal submission, 6 of these to equal awe, 6 of these to equal disapproval. That's what I'm talking about. It's an amalgamation of these to equal this 1 is the point I'm making, right? Now, to me, you need all 6 of ecstasy, admiration, joy, trust, acceptance, serenity to equal this love. This is where the elusiveness comes from. And a lot of people struggle predominantly with this trust part. They struggle not with the ecstasy. They struggle not with the joy. They struggle not with the admiration, because it's easy to admire people. It's the trust part.
Yeah. It's almost to the point where I don't know if I would want, not you're saying this, but again, I don't know if I would put trust in the same category as the others. Because I don't think trust is as an immediate, as an emotion as the others. Like joy or like I said, something that comes off the rip. Trust is usually something that has to be built. I think trust in a lot of ways feeds on the same formula that you were using.
I see what you're talking about. I lost. Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? It feeds the same
right.
thing. That whole feeling, action. Gosh, why can't You're forgetting your loop there. But I think trust is built in the same way that love is.
Thought, feeling, action.
Yes, thought,
And then
feelings, and actions. I
translation.
think that's how trust is built. So trust requires that, whereas I think the other ones, I don't know if they necessarily do.
Well, think
Ecstasy is
okay.
something
So
that can just
okay. So
come
think
just
about
from,
think about that trust part.
Mhm.
So think about the trust part in that cycle, right? You need repetition to trust someone. Do you not? You
Correct.
you need to see that consistency to trust someone.
Correct.
Okay. So if you're not joyful around someone, or if you have problems accepting someone, then you're not going to trust them, right?
It depends. Look, you're
Tell me.
you're a military guy.
Yep. Okay.
So that there are guys, I'm sure that you were not joyful around, or had a lot of even personal feelings for. But again, your unit, the way you were groomed, the way you were trained up, there was a trust that was built. You might not have had emotional ties for them, but if this is your brother, you're in the field.
Okay.
Out of the field, out of the field of play or whatever, you guys don't even talk to each other. It's like, I don't want nothing to do with them. But when it comes down to get down, then I would think there would be a trust that say, hey, when we're out there, you got my back. I may not like you personally.
Okay.
But you still have my back. Is that not how it sometimes works, even in that setting? So you can have trust without necessarily liking someone or having those other feelings involved.
So I see where you're going there, but a couple things. One, there was automatically acceptance right there, because acceptance will sometimes take the place of trust, because one, we were all Marines. So there was automatically acceptance right there. Okay. We all accepted each other because we all went through the same shit. We all went through the same, we were all there.
Sure.
So acceptance. Okay. It didn't matter if I didn't like the person or not. Okay. Rounds down range. Okay. We got a mission. Okay. Then if it was let's say a staff sergeant or whoever the case may be that was above us, we were all programmed. I mean, literally programmed. I mean, even to this day, when I see someone that is of a certain rank, I instantly admire him. I kid you not, because of the rank. The rank to me, it's almost like I'm looking at a figure that I want to emulate, just because of the rank. I kid you not. We were programmed to admire someone of a higher rank as if they're almost like a deity. It's like I can't say the word, but it's almost like programming. It's in all of us.
It's pretty much putting your DNA without you realizing it.
Yeah, literally. And it's almost like when we see in training, we were not allowed to look at anyone of a higher rank in the eye. We didn't rate to look at them in the eye.
Right.
We were trained to look at their boots.
Why are they boots?
Because before we became Marines, we weren't even able to look at the uniform. We hardly was even able to wear the uniform correctly until we received our EGAs. We wore the uniform all stupidly, like we were wearing the boots, we were wearing the utes, but we had like go fasters on and a glow belt. Okay. So we were taught to admire the ones who could wear the uniform correctly. And then once we were able to wear the uniform correctly with the bloused cuffs and the bloused boots and whatever the case may be, then it was like, oh dang, we didn't even have chevrons, but those guys over there, they had chevrons. Ooh, right? So, and then once we got chevrons, wait, they had rockers on their chevrons and cross rifles, and then we get cross rifles and it's like, crap, look, theirs are shiny. Like, so admiration was sometimes peel into trust because we're taught that they are trained to have our backs no matter what. So it didn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So when you admire someone or accept someone, it sometimes can replace that trust, or it can look like trust if you admire and accept someone.
Right. But I guess the point is that trust is not necessarily going to be part of the equation. It can, like you said, it can be replaced. But if you truly want real trust, it has to go through that reinforcement loop that you described earlier. If
Correct.
you really want to have it solid.
Correct.
All right. Got it.
Mhm.
Loss, you want to, Ghost, you want to get in here?
Yeah.
We're coming towards the end of the show. There's one
Oh,
more
wait.
point that I did want to, that's manipulation.
So
respect.
yes. Okay. So I gotta do that. Yes, it is manipulation, but I would argue, y'all may want to do a part 2 on this because
sure.
yes, every aspect of this loop I just told you guys about. Thank you so much for saying this. Okay, that thought, feeling, action, translation is yes, manipulation. It is convincing the other person that you can think and feel, and it's safe to act. It is. It is. It's safe to admire me. It's safe to accept me. It's safe to trust me. It's safe to be in ecstasy with me. It's safe to be joyful around me. And yes, we're going to be in serenity together. That's why it's safe to love me. Absolutely. It is manipulation.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And then
now, would you just based on your on that flower, would you also say that because for that submission piece that Loss was talking about, it talked about terror and fear and all that kind of stuff, that you would certainly as a soldier, are those things necessary? Terror,
yes,
fear,
a wife school podcast. Yes, a good manipulation, not in a bad way. Yes, absolutely. Say it again, Bennett, Mr. Bennett. I'm sorry.
So again, just looking at your flower here, terror, fear, apprehension. So from what I'm looking at, you need the admiration, trust, acceptance, and you need the terror, fear, and apprehension in order to get submission.
Absolutely.
But is that true? Because again, you could be in submission to someone without the trust and all those things. It's if you're a slave, then where does that left half, where does that even factor in at that point?
So love and submission are not one and the same, as you saw in the flower, right?
Right.
Okay. So women can submit to a man for the purposes of coitus with no problems and not love a man. This is why when people when men say that I don't know how a woman can just have sex with a man and not it's very easy to do so because as you can see, submission completely separate. There is a line there where admiration, trust, and acceptance shares a line and space between submission and love. There is a share there, and this is the part.
I was talking about that right side where it had terror, terror, fear,
right.
and apprehension.
We're gonna get there. So there's a line here that submission and love does share between the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy I found this flower because I thought I lost it, right? But you need terror, fear, and apprehension in order to get submission, because you need the person who is submitting to you has to have a healthy amount of fear in order to garner that submission. If the woman does not fear you, she can't submit to you because she doesn't respect you. If she does not fear what you can do, if you were to ever lose your mind, she doesn't respect you. This is the reason why women look for men who are taller than them, because it's the idea that that this man could outpower me if need be, or provide protection if need be. Now, that's another theory, but that's another day.
Let's
right?
Table that for the we're gonna do a show if Peter's up for it We're just going to deal just with that half. Just that
No,
little.
don't roll your eyes, Lady Navoa. It's true.
let's let's
Oh my God!
we can deal with that because again the terror fear apprehension part with this again because I can see right now
So
that a lot of
here's
ladies
an
are gonna
idea
feel
for you
something.
guys,
Yeah,
because I had something else planned for next week. We can push it down and do a part 2 next week and have Bossman come in.
we can we can
As long as
certainly do
Bossman
that
knows
and
how to
focus
behave
in
himself.
on this focus
What
in
do you
on
mean? I
that
know how to behave myself. I did well. I
focus in
didn't do
that part.
anything. All I said was I pointed out this is like I didn't draw this flower. This is
No, he did not.
psychology.
Relax, I'm busting your little balls.
He fast. Yeah. So for
Where's my
everybody,
FU?
because I know Lady Navoa White School podcast, so you could tell.
You've reached your limit
So
on
invite all the
topic.
ladies to
Shut
invite all
the
the
fuck
ladies.
up.
All the ladies come to this one next week. We'll do a deeper dive on it. But
And
do
I
wanna
have
get
another idea, Paul.
Yeah.
We should have an open panel for that one too.
Oh boy.
Lady Navoa says, "Scare me, Daddy." That's right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna make a comment on that one.
I have no comment for that one.
I'm going to make a comment. He's married.
I'm not commenting on that one at all. But
That's right.
I did want to kind of take this back, I guess, more to a human level in terms of relationships. Again, we talk about different cultures, how they look at love. Again, some cultures don't express love in those ways. Some cultures don't even say love. So articles I got, I think the French typically don't say I love you a lot, at least not romantically. And it's weird because we get all this romantic stuff apparently from the French, but even in the real relationships, they don't go around saying I love you all the time.
Another one I want to add to that, Paul. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I realized really Indian cultures also are not really like very sexual.
And I was about to get to there also because again, how using Boss Man's cycle, how we get to love or how we fall in love in a lot of instances has nothing to do with marriage per se. Because again, in Asian Indian cultures or whatnot, there's the arranged. Now, I've known people who got married after 15 minutes.
Betrothed.
Yeah. So again, how this manifests itself in relationships, it can you develop it before you get in. I think in Western culture, we tend to want to have those feelings before we commit to somebody. Whereas in these other cultures, it's like they commit and then that stuff comes later. The love comes later. So it's a very different way of thinking that I wouldn't mind exploring, certainly in another show or a continuation. That again, how even these things manifest themselves is very different based on the culture. But even then, it still speaks to the point that I was raising earlier in terms of having the serious conversation about how do you want this to manifest? What does love look like to you? What do you need from another person? And be honest about your capacity to give to another person in the way that they do it. Lady Navoa, we could definitely do it from one's perspective. You're welcome to go. So whoever wants to come. So again, Ghost, if we want to have some ladies who want to participate in that conversation, you can reach out.
Maybe
to
we'll
us.
bring Bossman's wife.
Oh, well, I knew you was gonna say it. I knew you was gonna say it. Ask my wife
She's a
to come up
firecracker.
here.
I love having her on.
She is. I will ask her for next Sunday. I'll ask her.
Ask the Ghost's part.
Wife school. If you're free, reach out to us. You know me on
I have her email, so I will.
Yeah, so reach out to
her.
Peter or myself, and we can make that happen also, and talk about this in more in more depth. But
I know personally, I've been blowing up her inbox with my invites on every Thursday, so that she never shows up anymore.
Yeah, they said those cultures are more successful. So again, they're doing something right. So again, perhaps a lot of the issues that we're having could be again based on our Western culture. That has Western culture in terms of how it defines and how it perceives love. Is it something that that may need to change? Because most of the arguments I've been seeing in this space for the last 5 years in this YouTube manosphere space is all talking about the failures of Western culture. So maybe how we even approach marriage and relationships and our expectations maybe need to change so that we can possibly have a better maybe we can have better outcome. But I do find it interesting now that even that's changing in Asian cultures now, especially if they're
Yeah,
here.
it is. It's starting
Because
to.
any culture that I've ever seen, that if you're second, third generation, if you're in this country, you start to adopt a lot of the values and ideas of the Western culture, and you start thinking apart differently from that culture, which may have preserved you for thousands of years. And you find yourself in a space that's not necessarily healthy. So one of the things what we like to do in the gray area is, in fact, I like to do, and what I've done personally in my life, the fact that I had the opportunity to see marriage from different cultures. Asian Indians is a major reason, I think, why I'm married now, because that was the first model that I saw in my life of people doing it differently. There was a lot of dysfunction in my family, a lot of divorces, a lot of bad relationships. And I'm not saying that Asian Indian relationships are perfect, because I've seen enough up close to know that they're not. But it got me thinking differently, seeing how other people love differently. And one of my best friends to this day, when he told me he was getting married, I was a little bit offended, because I didn't even know. I was like, I didn't know you were even dating anybody. And he told me straight up, I don't even know who I'm marrying yet. So wait a minute. You're going to India to get married, but you don't know who you're marrying yet? And that was like the record player just stopped at that point and was like, so yeah, you got to break this down to me, how this thing works. You mean you'll actually marry somebody who you barely know, but you just kind of interview them, and if if the family's like,
Oh, hell no.
and that's how you guys do it? He's like, yeah. And that just totally, I just that just totally, my worldview was shook after seeing that. But it definitely got me to see another side, and historically, because a lot of what we're seeing now, this whole love discussion, what is love and how do I love people and whatnot, it worked fine for most of human history until maybe 200 years ago, when we started having these Western ideas about what love is and romance and things of that nature. So maybe there's something to be gleaned from that we may need to take a to take a look at. But
You really sugarcoating it. I'll let you have it.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I know. I'll let you have it.
Ghost.
But sometimes, I got back up Paul on this one. Sometimes those arranged marriages work better than dating. I've seen a lot of them survive to the end. Some of them are married as young as 18, 14, 15. Ours are different laws over there. But what is other cultures? I think that's one thing we need to touch the base next week, is what is other cultures doing correctly, and us as the mecca of almost everything, we're failing in the marriage / romance department. And let's be honest, I did a show recently on my channel about dating apps. Something's not.
Well, you said marriage and romance. I don't know. Romance could be the problem. So I'm just saying, marriage. You said marriage and romance might be like the cubic zirconia version of what we need to be talking about. Romance is an invention that I think maybe has had some consequences to it that that may be the reason why we're in the situation that we're in. But we can certainly visit that in another show. And Boss Man.
Yeah, I do want to touch base on that. I really do, because I feel like that is something overseas they're doing right and we're not doing right. Correct, wrong. I said it backwards, didn't I? But you guys know what I meant.
Right here, okay. And I want to pause right here. Okay, I mentioned this on TikTok the other day. Okay, and this pissed off some women, and I don't give a shit. Okay, And you just said that I was behaving myself, and now I'm not about to behave for a second.
Yeah,
Okay.
fuck me.
Okay. Just for a
Thank-
split second. Okay. Men are told how we are supposed to govern ourselves early on. Okay. Every man on every panel that I've been on TikTok for the most part understood a concept of what we're supposed to be, which is protect, profess, and provide. They all agreed simultaneously. But women, on the other hand, what they're supposed to be for men, it's like confetti. They don't know. And that's because women are not told and taught in a simultaneous line in rank and file what they're supposed to be for men. That is part and parcel to the problem. I didn't say the only problem. I said part and parcel to the problem. Men understand and are told and taught early on how to treat women for the most part. Now, do we all follow the decree and creed? No, not all of us do. I'm not going to say that every man is perfect. That's bullshit. I ain't doing that. But what I am saying is that not every woman understands a decree as to what they are supposed to be for us, but they always tend to know what we are supposed to be to them. That right there is a huge part of the Western problem, is that both sides don't have a solid, at least a starting point of what they're supposed to be when they hit the batting plate. I'm sorry.
Indeed. No,
Not sorry.
that was pretty good. You didn't go too far off the rails.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
He
I
behaved
appreciate that.
pretty much.
Yeah.
All right.
Well done.
Whew. All right.
All right. Ghost, let's start to wrap this up. You're running a little over, but this was good. This was good tonight. Again, this is again gray area as so again, a lot of these shows we try to do our best to try to keep the shows to a couple hours, but yeah, we could definitely do a part 2. We can do a continuation. So we're already telling you next week. Next week will be a continuation, and so we'll talk about from a different cultural perspective, and we'll certainly bring up boss man, just make sure you have that flower available. And I definitely want to again zero in, because each one of those is a show in and of itself. So I want to zero in particularly on the love and the submission parts, and we can take a stab at that and see where we go on. So
Honestly,
invite everybody. Yeah.
When I coming up with the idea, I didn't think I was going to open a can of worms for this one, but I'm glad I did open a can of worms.
There you go.
More content. But we do definitely need to explore this more deeply, more passionately, more everything. But one thing I will say, I know Paul, you're not a big fan of this, but we're definitely dropping in like next week. So guys, tune in. If you guys want to say disagree with us, bring it, because he's ready for a fight down there. The little short guy. Yeah, 4-2.
Oh,
Look at his fucking face. Okay, I'm sorry. 3-2.
You know what?
120 pounds.
Then he's coming.
You know what?
Ankles, then.
You know what? I wasn't going to do it to you, but here you go. But out of respect for Paul, I wasn't going to play the whole thing. So you already know.
I'm talking. Shut the fuck up.
There you go. He was
You
one of
had
his
that-
behavior.
that
There you
game.
go.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Closing thoughts. Pete, was that your closing thought? We're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think I'll let Bossman get off of it with a smoothie this time.
All right.
I got your lotion right here for
Boss man. Any closing thoughts from you, sir? Thank you for joining. Thank you for certainly adding some more depth certainly to the show, and definitely give us talking points for next week. And just again, heads up, this week, obviously, I would say congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs once again, going for their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl. They will
Don't
be
you
meeting
dare
the
say
rematch,
Eagles.
the Philadelphia Eagles. So congratulations to the Eagles as well. We'll be chopping this all up on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 1-on-1 Sports Show right here on the BMU Network. All right, so again, you guys tune in for that as well as we chop it up. And I'm
Paul,
sure
before you
Eagles
go,
fans in the
question.
place, they're going to be saying "Fly Eagles, fly." So, yeah.
Prediction: Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to win?
You have to tune in for that show. All right, tune in.
I'm asking as you're
Tune in Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here.
I'll be at
on the
work.
BMU Network, 1-on-1 Sports Show. We will go over predictions, analysis, in-depth analysis of the games, and predictions for the Super Bowl. So again, all that be there. You gotta come in. You gotta leave them hanging, Peter. All right, cliffhanger. Right. You gotta leave them hanging a little bit, a little teaser. All right. We're gonna go all of that. Right.
That cock blocking here.
8 p.m. BMU Sports, BMU Network, one-on-one sports. Be there. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I am Mr. Bennett. He is.
This is Sparta!
That goes to Sparta, and this is Boss Man, bringing it always. Again, guys, make sure you tune in on his show. He comes in after us, after the one-on-one sports show on Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He comes in with his show, and again, that's upper level. All right, not everyone's built for that, but I'm just saying, you know, if you want to elevate your speech pattern, all right, you're going to learn some words that you probably never even heard before, haven't used in a while. But again, he elevates the conversation. All right. So again, definitely make sure you tune in on Boss. What's the name of your show again, Boss Man? What's it called?
Stand on Business podcast.
Stand on Business. Yes, absolutely. Wednesdays 9:30. Be sure you tune in and check them out as well. Again, very. I had the pleasure of talking to you a little bit last week.
Appreciate you for coming on.
Elevated talk, and I appreciate what you're doing out there in these spaces. But this is the gray area, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. You guys have a great week. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next time.